let's. I would be remiss if I didn't bring the Lutheran factor into this. What, in your opinion, what kind of track record do we Lutherans have on this issue?
I think that we Lutherans like to stay in our cave to ourselves.
Okay.
So it's kind of hard to. My critique more so of them is the silence. Even though we have people like, is it Bo Garrett? I forgot his name, but who actually marched with Dr. King.
Yeah.
We have a statement on racism that's written brilliantly.
Yep.
So we've attempted to it, but to be honest with you, I wrote a piece called Dear Lutheranism. Not sure if you read it or not. It's on Tory Gazette. Yeah.
Okay.
I think that due to us being so antisocial, not willing to come out and sit at the table that we rightfully deserve in Christendom, we've avoided, we moved ourselves out of it, where even if we had a great perspective or even a wrong perspective, no one hears our perspective.
Yeah. Because
we're so worried about a claim of unionism and things of that nature, we won't go to an event and proclaim our view. I won't say our truth. I hate that phrase, but we won't go state our thing. We're so worried about, if you don't become a celebrity pastor. Matter of fact, one of the first articles I wrote for this old blog was I wish we had a celebrity pastor in Lutheranism. Now I'm not saying like Creflo Dollar or nothing like that,
right?
But one to where when they spoke, Christendom listens.
Yeah.
What did he say? When MacArthur speaks, people listen.
Yeah.
When the late R.C. Sproul spoke, people listened.
Yeah.
When the Lutheran speaks, people are like, "Who is that?
Right.
Why does he have a rope around his waist? What's going on?"
Right.
You know? So in that context, I do wish that we would come to the table and talk more. So it's kind of hard to have a critique, pro or nay, because we have wrote things. There are figures in our history, like the first Rosa.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know about that, I'm not talking about Rosa Parks. Feel free to Google the first Rosa.
No, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
One of the first black colleges was in Alabama by Lutherans. See what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yep.
So there's things like that no one knows about because we're too busy in our cave just drawing on walls.
Right.
Instead of engaging the world and talking about it. Then there's a lot of Lutherans that I think are totally off and I'm not a fan of. But you still got to come to the table and get involved in the conversation.
Right, exactly. Well, and that's the thing is, so what Lutherans are very, very good at is being faithful to what a church is supposed to be doing in the sense of a local church. You know, you pretty much walk into any Lutheran church, they're going to be faithful to word and sacrament.
Amen.
But then as far as trying to get word and sacrament outside of those four walls, it's a challenge. It's a challenge because being faithful to word and sacrament is a full-time job. So that's the connect. So for me, it would be very difficult for me to schedule a meeting with one of my pastors and say, hey, look, we're in inner city Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we should be doing more to reach out to our community here, especially minorities, and trying to see what we can do, to help the poor in our community, et cetera, et cetera. It would be hard for me to do that in the sense that they are spending all of their energy just trying to sustain a faithful church. So here's my solution to that. And I've always believed this. I mean, I was a former evangelical pastor, and most of the time when people came to me with ideas, I would say, "What's that?"
You were a Baptist?
I was more or less. I was ordained with the Christian Missionary Alliance, which is.
This interview's over, bro. I gotta
go. No, I was ordained with the Christian Missionary Alliance, which might as well be Baptist. But the thing of it was, people would come to me and say, "Hey, we should be doing blah blah blah," and I'm like, "That's a great idea. That we really should be doing that." When can I see some plans from you in place where you're going to lead this and start heading this up and doing it? That would be my challenge to people in the LCMS is, okay, hey, we're not involved in this racial reconciliation thing to the point that you think it should be. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to? So for instance, in my church, if I was going to bring that up to my pastors, I would have to have a game plan in place to say, hey, this is what I want to do about it. Here's how I want to lead something that's going to reach out to more of the minorities in our community. It's going to bring more of them in. It is going to give them a leg up. It's good, and not only just help them. I mean, my biggest beef with all of this is that the way a lot of people like me approach this is we think, oh, we're going to help those people, and the problem with that is that no, what we need is those people's help. We need help. There are people probably a stone's throw away from here that if they joined my church would be infinitely better. We need, there's so many resources out there that we just, we're just closed off to, and we think, so yeah. Anyway, there's my sermon on that. I mean, lay people need to be doing more about this. Not just these talking heads that are at the conferences and Ligon, as much as I respect Ligon Duncan and everybody else, that's not what's going to solve the problem. It's going to be guys like me and you, saying, hey, we're going to do something about this.
No, I hear what you're saying, and I give Baptists a hard time, but that's what they're a lot better at than we are, to be honest, And that's why it's great that Ligon Duncan and them do talk about it, because they have to ignite a spark in somebody.
Yeah, sure.
Let the Holy Spirit convict them and lead them to wanting to do something like that. Because, like you said, I mean, I can't expect my pastor to always be the person leading at the helm, But, before a lay person does it, he does need the sign off from the pastor to have support. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So it does come back to, like you said, where are my plans out for this? Are people caring enough to get involved to do something like that? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I do agree as far as the lay people can have a big impact in this. Right. And neighbor-to-neighbor vocation can't be undermined.
Yeah. Right. Well, and that's my whole problem with attacking this from a systemic level, to say that, okay, again, it just breaks my heart what's going on with incarceration rates. I mean, I hate that. I'm like, what can we do? How can we fix this? Can't we just legalize all drugs and stop this war on drugs nonsense, and then that'll solve the problem? And then I just have to dial it back and say, you know what? The answer, I don't believe, is ultimately going to come from making some big sweeping systemic change. It's not going to happen that way. What's going to happen is when people decide, you know what? I'm sick of seeing black men separated from their families by going to jail for, excuse my language, bullshit charges. I'm sick of that. I'm going to do something about that myself. And
or you can do like the anti-social justice and people say, and just give them the gospel.
Well, for crying out loud. I mean, that's something that, again.
I'm being sarcastic because a lot of times it's the person already is a Christian.
Right. Well, yeah, but right. But the thing of it is that I think that the flip side of where I used to be involved as an evangelical pastor, where we thought, okay, we have to preach the gospel to these people, and if we don't preach the gospel to them in a certain kind of way, then in order for them to make a decision for Christ and be saved and be baptized, then they're going to go to hell. That's wrong. It's unbiblical. Everything else. What Holy Scripture teaches us is that God is the one who saves, right? But I think sometimes we take that to such an extreme that we don't think that preaching the gospel on an individual level to our neighbors and friends has any merit anymore.
I agree with what you're saying, though, but I think in general, the people who say that and what we're talking about now ignores one thing, and that's their use of the law. Like, sometimes you have to talk about the law. You can't always just be, Christ died for you, bro. Yeah, Christ died for you, bro. And you know what? to live a life pleasing to God and loving your neighbor, you can't be a bigot.
Yeah.
We're gonna throw some law at you and
Yeah.
tell you how God plans for us to live.
That's right.
You can't. You have to be able to separate law from gospel, and a lot of times it seems like people who are just saying, "Oh, sin is sin. Give them the gospel."
Yeah.
Okay. Let's not be gospel reductionists here.
Yep.
There's more to this conversation than that. And the sad part is they know that already, because when they talk about people who are addicted to drugs, they don't just say give them the gospel. They talk about rehab. They talk about steps. They talk about things to help them correct that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I never hear just give the gospel to the judge who's giving out unfair sentencing.
Right.
I never hear that. You know what I'm saying? So I was being sarcastic, but that answer totally, it bothers me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It totally bothers. To me, it's 100% dismissal. It's like, oh, this guy just raped somebody. Give him the gospel. Nah, man.
No.
I'm about to talk to him about his consequences. He's about to face these consequences, and then talk to him about repentance. But he's going to hear about how he's supposed to act,
right,
and how we're expected to act and live.
Right. No, I 100% agree with that, and I think that is, man, I'm so glad you brought that up, Tyree, because that's such I think a weakness of the Lutheran articulation of the faith, that because we have such an emphasis on justification, we forget about instruction in the law. And I think,
but not just us though, not just us. I mean,
yeah,
because that "it's just sin" applies to a lot of stuff. People who are signing a social justice statement and other things also that just say, "Oh, you know." So I agree with what you're saying, though. I agree.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, is I don't want us Lutherans to fall into that trap, to say that, exactly what you're saying, that that not only is it and here's the thing is, I go to a very conservative Lutheran church where the law is preached, and it's preached in a very balanced way. That is to say that we can fall off one side of the horse to say that we really emphasize the do nots of the law, and we forget to emphasize the do's. In other words, what are you going to, the fifth commandment says, don't hurt or harm a neighbor in his body, but help him in every physical need. So a lot of times people will emphasize don't hurt or harm a neighbor in his body. We can emphasize that all day. Oh, I've never done that. That's what the Pharisees did in response to Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. But Jesus Jesus taught us that we should help our neighbor in every physical need. And that's what I love about Redeemer, is that what gets preached from the pulpit is that not just the do nots, but that what are you doing to help a neighbor in need. And if you're not doing that, then you should come to private confession and absolution and confess that, And so I guess what my point is in all this is that I question whether or not this can be solved in a broad, sweeping, systemic way, and rather where it's going to be solved is on the ground with individuals. I don't know. Maybe it's both. I don't know.
I would say both. But I'm a raging social justice warrior, so I'm pretty sure if you do, I was going to say that.
Well, I don't. I would disagree with you. In the sense of, when you say social justice warrior, what that communicates to me is that what you want to do is you want to completely break down the American system. The American project is a failure. We need to completely do away with that, and we need to replace it with something else. That's not your position, is it?
No, I hear what you're saying.
Right.
But the same way the Catholics called us Lutheran, and we didn't like the name.
Yeah.
We said call us evangelical Catholic.
Yeah.
But they still called us Lutheran.
Right.
And eventually we just said, you know what? Okay, fine.
Yeah.
We're Lutheran.
Well,
that's the point I'm at. Because
okay.
I can draw that distinction that you're doing right now.
Yeah.
1,000,005 times. When I sign on Twitter, or when I talk to someone in real life, face to face,
Yeah.
I'm going to get labeled social justice warrior. So
Well, no,
I can fight it. You know what I'm saying? I can fight it, but eventually I have to realize that, you know what? I've been called worse.
Yeah.
It's just, you know,
Well,
and it's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
at first I didn't like the term social justice warrior,
Yeah.
but I got to the point where it's like, me arguing that isn't going to get me past that to the points I want to talk about. So
yeah. Well, I think
see that and move forward.
Right. Well, that's the thing is, I would just call red herring on that and say, yeah, sorry, that's not what I'm talking about. You want to label me whatever you want to label me and straw man me, go ahead. But this is what my issue is. Yeah, I think that's
conversation stops when I do that though. That's the hard part. Conversation stops when I do that. If I don't just move past it and embrace it and just say, you know what, whatever. Conversation stops. And then it becomes they're going to approve I'm a social justice warrior. They're going to try their hardest to bring it. Now I got to deflect it and argue that. Next thing I know, 40 minutes done gone by.
Right.
You know
well, that's what I'm wondering is so let's compare the two. So, for instance, I mean, I could be labeled a social justice warrior in a lot of ways because kind of the way I approach things, and I have been like, oh, are you a social justice warrior? And I'm like, well, what do you mean by that? You mean that I think it's a major issue that. Again, I keep bringing this up, but this is something that's heavy on my heart. I mean, if you're going to call me a social justice warrior for saying that black men are incarcerated at an disproportionate rate to white men, and that's a problem that we need to solve, I'm a social justice warrior. Sign me up, okay? If that's how I'm at. Yeah, if that's how you're going to label me. So my question is, so maybe you can help me with some strategy here, because my question is. Do you find it easier just to say, okay, go ahead and label me a social justice warrior, now let's continue our conversation? Or do you find it easier to go the other way and say, no, I don't buy into this, that, and the other thing that would commonly be associated with social? I mean, what's been your experience? Just concede that point and move on?
Yep.
Okay.
Honestly, and this is going to sound messed up, and I hope people who on Twitter who end up watching this don't take it the wrong way. If they do, whatever.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't care anyway.
Yeah.
Because after they say that and I defend that, 2 seconds later I'm gonna get postmodern.
Yeah.
2 seconds later I'll end up fighting all these things and never getting past it. So it's really label me what you want to label me. I mean, like for instance, I personally don't like being called African American. I prefer black.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna argue about it. You know what I'm saying? If someone says that's African American, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Shake my hand. Nice to meet you.
Right.
It's not that big of an issue to where I'm a fight. Now, if someone said he's a beepity beep beep,
yeah.
Okay, now we gotta talk. We might have to go outside. You know what I'm
saying? Right.
So it's kind of an aspect of pick the battle. Is my main focus what you're gonna call me, or my main focus to bring a light to the issue that we're gonna get to after that?
Yeah. So you find it. So again, this is just for my. So you find it easier just to say whatever, call me whatever you want, but let's talk about the issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
No, that makes sense. Right. With now you. All right. So let me get this straight on the record, because you will understand that there are segments of the social justice warrior movement who do want to destroy the United States, Western liberal. You understand that's going on, right?
Yeah, I know about Alexander Cortez and all those people. I know about them.
Yeah. And you've been blocked by Kyle J. Howard, which I find fascinating. He blocked you for what?
We have a long track record.
Okay. Hey, well, and so, here. Okay, so let me throw this at you. So I am intimately. Do you know who James Cone is?
Yes, I do.
Okay, I am intimately familiar with James Cone and his tactics.
Mm-hmm.
James Cone's number one tactic was deception.
Okay. One thing I'll say before we dig into James Cone is...
Okay, go ahead.
Please judge him by the context of his society that he grew up in and lived in, the same way you would Jonathan Edwards or George Whitefield in their era.
Right. No, I get that.
We'll say,
no, I do.
A lot of people don't excuse, and they'll sit here and rail on James Cone. Right. And then I'm like, okay, so now let's talk about Morton Smith or Dabney or Whitfield. Let's talk about them.
Yeah.
Oh, they're a man of their time.
They're a product of their time. when James Cone
Okay.
isn't somehow, right? Yeah, no,
Yeah,
that's
he's not. James Cone was alive when people were literally getting hung from trees.
yeah,
Houses
no, that's
burned down.
right. No, that is absolutely fair. That is absolutely fair. And had I been in James Cone's shoes, I would have said the exact same thing he said. Okay,
Right.
you know, Tyree, you're my brother. You're getting ready to get strung up by your neck. What am I going to do about that? If it comes down to I can lie to somebody, deceive somebody, even maybe physically hurt somebody to keep you from getting strung up by your neck, I'm going to do it. And that's the context James Cone was in. I totally agree with that. However, the thing I would critique about that is that people have taken James Cone out of his context and applied it to what's going on in today's time. So it has given people, unfortunately, people have taken what James Cone has written and put it into today's context, and they have said it is completely legitimate for us to pretend like we're all for the American way, we're all for liberal capitalism, we're all for the American project, all while actually what we're looking to do is destroy it. They have taken his words about deception to say that, hey, you know, deception and sometimes violence is necessary in this struggle, and they have taken it out of his context and applied. So it kind of goes both ways. While guys like James White, you know, Dr. White, I have a lot of respect for Dr. White for his apologetics.
Mr. White.
Yeah, he is out of his lane on this. He should have never touched this. You know, same thing with John MacArthur. I don't know. I am so frustrated with how those men have handled this situation. Okay, yes, the MLK 50 thing happened. The Together for the Gospel thing happened. And I was like, "Ooh, hey, wait a minute. I went to Claremont School of Theology, and what David Platt is talking about is communism." I mean,
Well, here's the thing though about the MLK 50 thing, and like, did you watch a good portion of the lectures?
I watched every one of them. Yeah, I watched every one of them.
The thing that I find funny, though, honestly, is a lot of people who watched them or say they watched them, they never talk about the issues that the black pastors brought up. You know what I'm saying? Like, the people who are commenting on their actual station in life that they have to live with every day.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I got to go back to my main point. A white voice matters more in general because Eric Mason said some points that people can agree or disagree on, some strong points. Mm-hmm. Pastor Charlie Dates had a great sermon. I'm sure people agree and disagree on, you know, but people don't even care to argue his points that he brought up, and they just go to Chandler or they go to Platts and TG4. It's like,
right.
It's just those to sit back, and I'm not saying agree or disagree.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I got you.
I agree with a lot of it, but what I'm saying is it's just curious to me that majority of the MLK 50 was black speakers.
Yeah.
But I only heard about Chandler.
Right.
That's all
well,
I cared about.
Yeah, that was well. No. Well, and yeah, I hear you, and that was. So that the thing, if you read my Federalist article, and I'm getting ready to hopefully come out with another one with more opinion on this, and my critique mainly is leveled at the statement on social justice, John MacArthur, James White, all those guys. That's where the critique it lies, because I think those guys. What's that?
I'll read that.
Okay. Well, no, that's where it's going to be because we are missing the boat. We're missing the boat. Don't sit there and tell me that you have a critique of this thing when you don't have a solution. When you don't articulate clearly that you care about these issues. Okay? Because I would
all they're going to say, though, bro,
yeah.
not to cut you off, but all they're going to say is give them the gospel, or sin is sin. That's all they're going to say.
Well, okay, I know what they're going to. Right, I know what they're going to say, but what I'm hoping is that the people on the ground will see that, okay, this is, okay, so there's both sides of this thing, and the way through this is to say, what am I as a Christian going to do about this? Right. How am I as a Christian going to obey the fifth commandment? That's really what this boils down to,
Right.
So, hey, I lost your video real quick there, man. Are you
Oh
back?
no, I'm coming back. I'm just texting somebody real fast.
Okay, no problem. So
Right.
that's really my question to people, and that is not the challenge that James White, John MacArthur, and everybody else is putting out on this. Is okay, we don't agree with the approach here, but we still think there's a fifth commandment issue. Okay, so yeah, we as Lutheran, fifth commandment, sixth commandment to the rest of the Calvinists and Protestants out there, right? So thou shalt not murder. This is a fifth commandment issue. And so what are we going to do about this fifth commandment issue? Not just not harm our neighbors, but what are we going to do to help them in every physical need? And for us to sit around and criticize, like you say, people who bring up this subject, that doesn't cut it. And that's my main critique of the statement on social justice. All that is a critique of people who are bringing up these issues. It doesn't cut it. Yeah.
I would say them ignoring it is harm.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, like honestly, like I not to bring up MacArthur again, but his stance in the 50s and 60s, when he just decided to preach the gospel and not stand with his brothers, not use his platform to bring issues.
Right.
How isn't that? I mean, to be honest with you, like the people that need to hear it, the gospel or whatever it is, they're going to listen to you more than MLK. They're going to listen to you more than Charles Evers. You're not helping at all. You're almost harming in that sense, I mean, even one of the initial signers and writers, Mr. Josh Boyce, he made a comment that on the podcast saying that the civil rights movement, the 50s, 60s, their end game was no end game. That these people pretty much were in it for power and status. Bro, you said that in 2017. You've seen what's the progress that's been made and what these people go through. And this is a signer of this thing. It's like you guys are totally. You're not harming in the sense that you're turning on the water hose on people, but you're sitting here helping people dismiss these real issues that are happening. Yeah. Not saying I know it's not a solution, but as far as the point of saying that, not helping, and some depending on your vocation and your status, you remaining silent is harm. It is harm.
That's like I've never thought about that, Tiger. I've never thought about that.
Like for instance, in World War II, when the Holocaust was happening, to be honest, we didn't get involved for a long time, America. I can't sit here and say that's not. We're a world power, and we're turning our back to this. What does that say? That says that we really don't care.
Yeah.
Really don't care. And then when we do get involved, it's because someone attacked us. That's not noble. That's defense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's like some guy where I'm at right now beating his girlfriend up, and me sitting here just watching, and then he misses a punch and hits me, and then I beat the snot out of the dude.
Yeah.
People are going to say, oh, man, thanks for getting involved. No, not really. And how is me sitting here just watching her get beat up knowing I could break it up? I have that station. I have this. Everybody can't do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In regards to the platform we're talking about, in regards to World War II.
Right.
But us being a world power, we do have that power where we can step in and say, hold on. We claim Judeo-Christianity values for our nation, and we do claim that, that stuff.
Yeah.
How is us watching genocide happen and ignoring it, not us ignoring our vocation? So that's just my perspective. Like I said, I'm not a pastor, so,
No. Well, no.
But,
That's challenging, because I think you're putting a fine point on really what my position is, and again, maybe I didn't push back enough on John last week, and again, I have guests on and I try to be polite, but to say that, okay, I get your critique of the approach that the SBC is taking. But the move is not to come out with a statement and have these Twitter wars and Facebook wars and podcast wars about what the writer, they're endorsing a neo-Marxist postmodern agenda. That's not the move. The move is to come out and say, okay, yes, we agree with you. There's a problem here. But
step one, right?
Yeah, but the way you're approaching it is if you run it to its deductio, and that's the problem I have with the MLK 50, the Together for the Gospel, the way they approach this, if you run their approach to its reductio, you will end up in a neo-Marxist, postmodern type of scenario. You will. The solution to that is not to just critique that, but to say, hey, here's our biblical solutions to the problems you're raising.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think that goes back to, in a slight sense, to what I mentioned before about how nobody even cared to acknowledge the perspectives or solutions or ideas from the black ministers at MLK 50. It's like, why? I'm just going to talk about why I disagree with what this white man said. Charlie Gates.
Yeah.
Micah Evans. I'm just going to focus on this.
Yeah.
No, seriously, it's like, it's not even a care. I mean, some people, I won't go this far, and some people are going to hear me say it and think I'm going this far. Some people will say that's a fruit of white supremacy, that you don't even care what the black people are saying. A lot of people turn to that thing just to hear Chandler's message.
Right.
They didn't care anything about, this is a Martin Luther King 50 thing. There's a lot of other presenters that are black who are talking about progress or what can be done or what should be done.
Right.
You really only came here to hear, and I like Chandler, so I'm going to ask Chandler,
Yeah. I don't like Chandler.
They only came,
I think Chandler's off base. I think Matt Chandler is lost in the sauce. I think he's confused, and I think he's dazed and confused. That's the only way I could put. Sorry, I mean not to come against you. I'm really frustrated with Chandler right now. I expected more of him. I really did.
That's
anyway,
fine. I at least give him credit for coming to the table, though.
Sure. No. Absolutely. No. That's absolutely right.
Like, and that has to be looked at. Like, he did come to the table.
Right. Well, so. Sorry, let me interrupt you right there real quick. What drives me nuts about this is that John MacArthur, Al Mohler, Matt Chandler, Ligon Duncan, anytime those four men wanted to get together around a table, they could literally get in their own private jets or take a plane ride, whatever they want to do, and those four men could sit around a table and discuss this issue and decide what the best way to proceed is. But it seems to me they have chosen to put this in the realm of the social media battle. So this has become, I mean, especially James White, in my estimation, and all this is disgusting, because he's turned this into a Twitter battle. Okay, I mean,
it's marketing.
Yeah, Dr. White, why are you turning this into a Twitter battle when you could literally have a discussion with anybody in this, anybody on the public sphere on this? Why, Dr. MacArthur, did you put out a statement on social justice when you could get with Al Mohler, Matt Chandler, Ligon Duncan, any of those guys, and talk about this? Why is this turned into a social media battle? To me, that is disgusting and despicable.
So two things I'll say is, and I hate to do this, but I have to give Dr. White, Mr. White credit. He did offer to meet your friend, Kyle James Howard, face-to-face.
Right, I saw that whole situation, yeah.
Now, I'm not going to be hypocrite. I agree with Kyle for not doing it, but I do give him credit for offering it. Okay, so I have to give him credit for that then. But even on a different note, how you just mentioned how those three people can get together, right?
Anytime they want. And I by the way, I've requested that Matt Chandler get with me for interviews on multiple occasions.
Oh, he's not coming. But,
no. Right, I know that by experience.
but what I'm saying is, my point is, how you just said those three can get together anytime. In that same breath, I've seen black leaders ask for that and be ignored by James White.
Yeah.
People on that side. Yeah. So it's like the people who are trying to get together and meet. A perfect example, and this is more in my zone of not giving Dr. White credit or Mr. White credit.
You don't want to get
ago. I'm not a fan of this. About a year or two ago, he put this video up of this kid doing a 10-second sin, and he railed about this guy on his Facebook about 70% chance he doesn't know his father. He don't grow up, probably have abortions, and this railed on this kid, right? This is a kid, all right? Knowing his platform, knowing his outreach, he just put a video up of a minor and then railed on him as a leader. okay, people reach out to him to meet and talk about it. People from as far as celebrity-wise, Lecrae, to people from the Reform African American Network, now it's called The Witness, reach out to him and say, yo, let's talk, let's meet, let's talk. We have to chat, let's talk. Your platform's so big, you doing this hurts things, let's talk.
Right.
No talking.
Nope.
When Eric Mason asked Tom Buck and Dr. White to meet for a conference, no.
Yeah.
No one, now being a Monday morning quarterback, looking back on it, they probably were meeting with Matt Alderman for that social justice statement around that same time.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be beneficial for them to get on their plane or this and that and go there and talk to these guys and see what people who, and I don't want to make it seem like there weren't black people who helped write it, per se,
Right.
but they are black people who have the opposite point of view or who are challenging. Why don't you talk to them? As I said before, areas at the council, like, you really feel that this much error to say that it's the biggest concern of the church, social justice advocacy, and they're asking to speak to you, why wouldn't you go if unity is the point, or your point really is to address it?
Right. Right.
You
well,
know?
I mean, that's what. So that's what's. I'm very frustrated with James White about this. I'm frustrated with John MacArthur about it, because if I were in either one of those men's shoes, I would be like, okay, the first thing I want to do is meet with Tabiti. It's me. You know, let's get together and talk about this, because here's what I would say to them. I would say, look, I am just as concerned about these things that are going on in our country as you are, and how can we solve them? So, hey, I lost video, man. Are you? You're back. You're back. All right. That would be. I mean, what kind of privilege would that be? To be able to sit down and say, you know, hey, Tabiti, you know,
I think it's more for respect. Do you respect their station in their community?
Yeah.
Do you respect their voice? Do you respect them as an intellectual that the black community has put them at?
Right.
Do you respect them to that point? And I'm not going to say it's a no, but it's up to other people to judge. But
Right.
I also wrote a piece on Tories that be a chance to check it out. Was called "Why Exclude Us."
Yeah.
And delved into that by saying, why weren't we offered to talk to people? Our leaders said, yo, let's meet. Totally ignored when you come up with your own statement. Is our voice not welcomed?
Right.
Is this just going to be an echo chamber? You decide what's good for us? You get together and you tell us what the issues are and how we handle it?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? I mean, that's why I say I'm more Malcolm than Martin. Sorry to bring that point up, but
No, I get it.
That's where that comes from. It's like, I'm not going to sit around and wait for you to have the dignity to respect our view. No. I mean, Eric Mason wrote a book called The Woke Church. Now, woke's a controversial word or whatever.
I read that book.
Yeah. I don't really care that he wrote it and used that title, even though it's controversial. Yo, I mean, they don't respect you already.
Yeah.
He could have named anything, and they would have never read it for the point of hearing him out, it seems like. You know what I'm saying? I could be wrong, but that's the way it feels like we're excluded from everything. So, but I had to get it out of here, man.
Yeah, I hear you. Man, I think I could talk to you for a long time. I hope this is the beginning of something. I really do.
Well, no, man, the conversation was a lot better than I thought, to be honest with you. You know?
Well,
no offense, but, you know.
No, that's cool. I tend to be more adversarial in print than I do in person. I really do. But that's it. You know, again, that's the thing that I want to get out there, that I'm just trying to press so hard at, you know, with my writing, with my podcasting, is that yes, we need to sew this thing up. there's a problem, and how can we fix this?
And to me, the only solution I could bring is step one. I think step one comes to the point where you have to respect the other person. You have to be able to listen. Still, when I say listen, I'm not talking about the aspect of how people assume it's like, oh, I can't have an opinion. Oh,
Right.
I don't have a say. It's just I listen to you. I'm not saying that. I'm saying respect the other side, where you at least give them an opportunity to talk and engage and work through in dialogue, not argue. You can dialogue. You can say, you know what? Like you said, I agree that the incarceration rate or the rate that the stats is showing that 2 people convicted of the same crime in the same county, black people are getting a more stiffer prison time. I agree that's a problem.
Yep.
Let's move from there and let's keep talking. Because our solutions might differ, but maybe we can point each other's flaws out and come to a better one. But before that happens, people have to respect someone enough to invite them to the table. Yeah. So before you do your social justice statement, you call to meeting and say, hey, why don't we Skype?
Yeah.
Why don't we meet and talk? Why don't we do this?
Right.
So I think step 1 is a big deal. I might not have step 2, 3, 4, 5, but I know for a fact step 1 is not happening.
Yeah, that's absolutely spot on. And that's, you know, when I write my Federalist piece on this, I mean, my main 2 critiques is that, one, the social, again, I've articulated this over again, the statement on social justice is not giving adequate attention to the problems.
And secondly, how are people going to sign a statement with a group that doesn't even sign on to the creeds? But never mind, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to get started. You know what I'm saying?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Sign on to the 3 ecumenical creeds. Yeah. You go to the statement of faith page, you don't see them there. But I'm supposed to sign this creed?
Yeah.
Nah, not at all.
That's a great. Well, and that's the thing is, so this whole this statement. I mean, while I in a sense agree with some of the stuff that's said, or I mean, if you want to press me, there's not much that I disagree with in the statement on social justice, but it's like, okay, but you guys got together and did this in a way that is not forwarding the discussion. And it's almost like you don't care to forward the discussion. What you want to do is set up a battle. That's
my point.
Right. And then on the other side of things, when I read the Color of Compromise, I just sent you that link to that book. There were several times, so I listened to this on audio, and I'm sitting in my truck, and I'm driving my truck down the road, and I'm listening to this, and I'm like, dude, what do you want us to do? Do you want to line up on either side of this issue, get our muskets out, and start shooting each other? Is that what this needs to come to solve this issue? Because that's
revolvers,
AR, whatever. I mean, do we want to literally have another civil war over this? And it just seems like that both sides are like bent on having this civil war.
I know, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I didn't mention many people on my side that I disagree with or that I agree with by name early, and that's purposeful, I'll say, because I actually learned this from Tisby on his podcast that a lot of our black leaders they get torn down a lot in general. Yeah. Like, I've seen people from Grace to Ministry say that majority of the black church is heterodox or heretical, things of that nature. So it's so easy for me to pick on one of them. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I agree with you that it's probably my only time I talk about one of them is Tisby's book can come across that way. You know what I'm saying? Where it's just like, okay, I see you're saying it's a fight for these reasons. That's why we're here fighting.
Right.
So is it that we like the fight, or are we trying to do a solution? Right. Because, like you say, I mean, so I get what you're saying. I don't want to really come. They get railed on a lot. A lot of our leaders do in general. From my side, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like to be, he gets railed on a lot. So
sure.
I'm not going to be. This is how messed up. People are going to get mad. I'm not going to be that black guy.
I got you.
Go at them when there's already 50 million voices going at them.
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, for instance, Kyle J. Howard blocked me. I'm not going to sit here and rail on about things about him. I could. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I'm not going to be that guy. I'm not going to say the critiques are invalid or valid, but I will say that some of them are valid at points that people make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're right. The conversation has to move forward.
Right. 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 And so, and that's the thing, you know, so that was the thing that frustrated me about Tisby was I'm like, look, you know, it's frustrating in one sense that guys like Tisby don't think that there's good faith on the other side, but at the same time, I can completely understand why Tisby would think that there's not good faith on the other side because we haven't shown good faith. For pity's sakes.
And that's why I have a hard time critiquing them. I can see why they have that stance.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, a couple years ago when their old network, I wish they kept the same name, Rand Network, now The Witness, when they would come out with shows, on the podcast, you could 100% see people are just listening to fight.
Yep.
I could follow somebody and I actually did this. I use social media, Twitter as kind of like a Gallup poll. Because
that's pretty smart, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I see that there's a group of people who always have an opinion negative about what they're saying.
Yep.
But I'll hear one of their shows to where they say something controversial, and that person's quiet. And it's like, I know you listen to it. You listen to all the other shows.
Right.
Oh, you don't want to say, hey, you have a point. Let's move forward on this point we agree on.
Yep.
But the Twitter fingers come out fast when it's time to fight, and then they start adding James White. Ooh, I hate him too, James White. I hate him too. Check this out, Phil. Ooh, ooh, yeah, go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, it's
I can see why.
Yeah, I do. I definitely see why. And if you're to ask me, and hopefully my piece in the Federalist, if you know.
Don't back me in peace, man.
Yeah, if it gets published, I mean, my main critique of this whole thing is that, yes, okay, we have the legitimate concerns with the neo-Marxism and the with the social justice issue. You know, those are legit. Okay, right. Fine, but don't sit there and we have got to come to a point where we're willing to offer the biblical solution. We have to.
Or and it's not also. Or he, because there's a biblical solution on the other side also. You know what I'm saying? Like we have to, on both sides have some biblical stance that they're standing on. So yeah. I agree with what you're saying. It's just that we have to acknowledge that it's not just one side that has truth. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that's the thing is, okay, so you want to talk about, again, you want to debate incarceration rates. Okay, if you want to say that's a systemic issue, okay, state your case. State your case. And let's talk about the laws that tend to incarcerate black people disproportionate to white people, and we can talk about how Holy Scripture applies to that. Okay, we can have a good faith conversation because I don't want people going to jail, mainly because if we can keep black men out of jail, then they can be fathers. That's the whole point.
Even when we talk about those people ignore it, though, man. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but for instance, Obama fixed this kind of, but an exact law would be the crack to cocaine ratio. People get caught for it.
Yep.
You get caught with 5 grams of crack, 5 grams of crack. You're going to serve a significant more time than someone who got caught with 5 grams of cocaine.
Yeah.
And when you step back and look at that, you'll say, okay, the inner city drug problem, because crack is cheaper, meaning you mix it with something. I don't want to sit here and explain how to make drugs, but it's
yeah, no, I get you.
It's a cheaper urban type drug that people who are in lower economic situations might be more attracted to because they can't afford the other one.
Right.
You look at people who do cocaine, let's say Whitney Houston or Charlie Sheen, guys who can afford the good stuff.
Yep.
They have to get caught with a ridiculous amount to get the same amount of crime time as someone in the urban cities. Those are exact issues, and people talk about those for 20 years.
Yeah.
20 years, and no one did anything until finally we have an African president who addresses it, kind of. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I hear you, but let me push back on you a little bit because, I mean, who? Okay, so Reagan instituted the war on drugs, which is an unmitigated disaster. That was like, I mean, in a lot of ways. So, had had Reagan's policies not literally brought communism in Russia to an end, I would have said his war on drugs would have completely negated anything positive he did in his presidency. Because, but let's not forget that the Democratic caucus, led by African American members, was on board with this sort of thing. They went along with, and Clinton doubled down on it.
Well, look. Here's one I'll say. I'm not a Democrat. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
No. But the point is, as I said before, it's like a cliche quote of this podcast. I'm more Malcolm than Martin. Okay.
Okay.
Malcolm X has a lecture. I can share it with you where he says that a lot of the black leaders are trumped up, followers, but they're trumped up to be just spokesmen who carry on an agenda of the Democratic Party, not of the, like for instance, people who fight for LGBT rights are loyal to LGBT before they're loyal to the Democratic Party.
Right.
We don't have that. Okay, so when you point to those people like Jesse Jackson and Al Sharpton, or people who were in Congress and the Senate,
right,
they're not really a black leader. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I mean, they're propped up political figures. Same thing that Malcolm X was talking about, how back in the 50s and 60s, he was saying, what other demographic or race do you see entertainers and comedians as the leaders on political issues and debate points?
Yeah.
You don't, but they want to go grab Jackie Robinson and other people like that to put in front of the camera, or nowadays they'll grab LeBron James or Kanye to put a mic in front of them. Not Cornel West, not guys like that. They go get those guys to speak. I mean, a perfect example today is there was a prison reform that was presented to Congress, STEP Act, I believe it's called.
Yep.
You don't see Kamala Harris, you don't see Cory Booker, you don't see them championing it or saying, I disagree with it, but this is progress and let's work on it. Why not? Because they're more loyal to the Democratic platform and agenda than they are black people. So, even though you're going to say it was black people who supported it or involved in Congress and this and that,
right?
Bro, they're fighting for their job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
I'm making an excuse for them because to me, a quote from Malcolm X is, if you keep labeling yourself as a Democrat, he did say Democrat, but either way, Democrat or Republican,
right?
And you believe the promises they make, and year after year they don't come through on their promises to you,
right?
You're a traitor to your race.
Yeah. Well, okay. So let me just throw a couple things out to you. One is when I was at Claremont. I mean, listen, the Claremont School of Theology is the hairy left edge of the Methodist seminaries. So when we would label ourselves as Malcolm or Martin, basically, I mean, there were a lot of us who were quote Martin who would be sitting in the same shoes you are. But what we were talking about is what we want ultimately is redemption for the oppressor and the oppressed. Okay, we wanted redemption for the oppressed. We want redemption for the oppressor. And I think in a lot of ways, and I argued for this in many times on Malcolm's behalf, was that's really what Malcolm wanted, and like what you're talking about. A lot of things like politics interfered with that, and so when you get up in those echelons of power, then you kind of flip your script in a lot of ways. So I don't know, but I do know that there are. I mean, again, the big question I have is like Eldridge Cleaver, the Black Panther movement, where there was a very clear statement that said, okay, the white people have oppressed the black people for this amount of time. The solution to that is for the black people to oppress the white people for that amount of time, and then we'll go from there. That's one of the options.
I mean, I hear you. I mean, I'm kind of familiar with the Black Panthers on an intimate level.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that's what I mean. I get what you're saying. I wouldn't say that was their platform. I think theirs more so was going back to police brutality. Police aren't protecting us in our neighborhood. They're not helping us.
Right.
All these social programs really aren't helping us. So we're going to walk through. I'm from the Bay Area. Back then, they started in Oakland.
Yep.
That's literally a rock throw from my neighborhood. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
So they started patrolling their neighborhoods. They started regulating their things. All of a sudden, the Second Amendment right doesn't happen. Now it's, they have guns, but the Second Amendment says we can. But not anymore.
Mm.
Then you get labeled a threat to the government. Okay, now we either fight or cower down. Not making excuses for negative things they did. I'm just saying we have to look at the context of the scenario that you just described. You see what I'm saying?
Sure.
But I have to get out of here, man.
All right, man. I think we can go on forever with this. Hey, I really appreciate you talking with me. Again, I hope this is kind of the beginning of something.
Yeah. I might want to split this into 2 podcasts, though.
I will. Yeah, I'll reduce it down. But we've got it live on Facebook, and
your last one was 3 hours, bro. 3 hours is a long time, bro.
No, it is, but yeah.
Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, or something like that, bro.
Yeah. We'll break it down, but what I'll do is my game plan is to get this down. Get this down off of Facebook raw, and then get it on YouTube and get it to Twitter as quick as possible, so people can access it. On as many platforms, because this is great. This is the kind of conversations. Hey, our betters out there in the broader evangelical world, these are the kind of conversations that need to go on. Okay, that's what I think. And if we did more of that, then I think the way we move forward would be way better. That's not to discount my friend John. I mean, he's a brother, he's a friend, he's got legitimate concerns. A lot of concerns I agree with. I just want to push, quote, my side. Okay, I'll put myself on his side. I want to push my side to say, guys, we can't just critique. We've got to recognize there's an issue and talk about it. And anyway, so not to get on another sermon, but I so appreciate you doing this. I'll get this broken down, put up as quick as I can, and I hope we'll continue a relationship and just keep the conversation going.
Well, definitely, man. And you can ask Nathan. I'm always up to talk. He always jumps in my DMs. We talk more in direct message.
Right on.
And always up for conversation. And like I said, it was good talking to you, man. I hope even if you were raw, I still hope you split it into 1 and 2 or 1, 2, 3. Because more people will look at it in regards to time wise.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So, I got you. Yeah, no, I'll do my best to get it out there in a way that people can digest. Because really, yeah. Well, I'll get it out there the best I can, bud.
All right, man. You send me the link on YouTube, and I'll post on my side.
Yeah. Right on. We'll do. Okay, man.
Right, man.
Take care, brother.
Bye.